The philosophy family has given me an opportunity to speak on the ethics of humanism. The word humanist was first used in 1589. It was borrowed from the Italian word humanista, humanista. It referred to an academic of any subject other than theology or a student of ancient languages. What we mean by humanist today was not the meaning at that time. The word humanism was not used at that time. In the 19th century, the word was used as a translation of the German word humanismus, humanismus. It referred to an attitude of life that is non-religious, non-theistic, or non-Christian. Within the academia, humanism was used to refer to the Renaissance movement called Renaissance humanism. And in Italy, the concept of humanitas was meant, that is the development of human virtue to the fullest extent. The source of this humanistas was classical literature, and the classical literature of Greece and Rome. The Greeks glorified human body, human nature, and human virtues instead of divine strength. They accepted human fallibility and man's ability of rise and struggle. Personal autonomy and individualism characterized humanism, leading to critical scrutiny and self-inquiry. Scholars began to explore the untrodden territory of knowledge. Plato, Petrarch, Aristotle, Dante, Cicero, etc. became the guiding angels. The words of Francis Bacon epitomizes the Renaissance humanism. He said he took all areas of knowledge in his province. But outside the academia, it referred to something else, not particularly Renaissance humanism. It meant a non-religious, non-theistic attitude. It denoted an approach to life that valued human beings and human culture, contrasted with theological speculations and revelations. In the 20th century, men and women gave form to this humanism in books, journals, and speeches. Gradually, very interestingly, words like Christian humanism, religious humanism, secular humanism were used. Christian humanism regarded humanist principles like universal human dignity and individual freedom as essential components of teaching of Jesus Christ. Theologians such as Janus Zimmerman make a case for the concept of Christian doctrine. To him, it emerges from the Christian doctrine that God in the person of Jesus became human in order to redeem humanity. It originated towards the end of the 15th century with Jacob Wimphelen, John Colet, and Thomas More, and it dominated the thought of the first half of the 16th century. These scholars aimed at reforming church through humanist education and were highly critical of corruption in churches. They combined the greatest morals in the pre-Christian moral philosophers such as Cicero, Seneca, with Christian interpretations. The major goal of Christian humanism was to reform the Catholic Church. The Christian humanists believed human beings could use reason and improve themselves. Now, interestingly, there is another word that is used, that is religious humanism. It is a modern American movement of non-theistic humanists. They want to achieve ethical goals of religion without beliefs and rites resting upon supernaturalism. However, originally, humanism meant an attitude separate from religion, and in many respects, it conflicts with religion. But some of the beliefs and values of humanism may be religious. There may be people who self-identify as Christian, Jewish, or whatever, or ethnic or political reasons, but they have humanist convictions and no religious beliefs. There are two other usages of the word religious humanism. Some critics use religious humanism to convey that humanism is their religion. Some people, some others participate in humanist organizations in a congregational manner akin to the manner in which a follower of religion may participate in a community. However, now I am quoting some contemporary meanings of the word. The first meaning is it is a philosophy that holds that human beings achieve a system of morality through their own reasoning rather than through a belief in any divine being. The second meaning may be it is an appeal to reason in contrast to religious authority as a means of finding out about the natural world and destiny of man. Humanist ethics is distinguished by placing the end of moral action in the welfare of humanity. The third meaning is it is a belief in reason and autonomy as fundamental aspects of human existence. It is a belief that reason, skepticism, and scientific method are the only appropriate instruments for discovering truth and structuring human community. It is a belief that foundations for ethics and society are to be found in autonomy and moral equality. The International Humanist and Ethical Union in America has defined it in a very nice way. According to the International Humanist and Ethical Union, humanism is a democratic and ethical life stance which affirms that human beings have the right and responsibility to give meaning and shape to their own lives. It stands for the building of a more human society through an ethic based on human and other natural values in the spirit of reason and free inquiry through human capabilities. It is not theistic and it does not accept supernatural views of reality. This is the definition given by the International Humanist and Ethical Union. Humanism begins with human beings. Man is the measure of all things. Humanism asserts that active deployment of its senses is the way to gain knowledge. On occasions, we may be misled by our senses. Therefore, humanists argue that we should not trust the evidence of our senses blindly, but use it as a basis to predict future events or test the theories we have invented. This process gives our sense experience a greater reliability over time through corroboration. This is a scientific method and it is what the humanists accept. The humanists see the human being as not distinct from the rest of nature. He is a product of purposeless natural processes over billions of years of development and change. The humanist has a feeling that he is conscious of himself as an earth child. As he is rooted in millions of years of planetary history, he has the pride and dignity as a bearer of the heritage of the ages and growing creative center of cosmic life. According to humanists, we possess forethought, we possess will. We are both objects of nature and also subjects that can set our own fate. We are also conscious beings with purpose and agency. We can design ways of breaking the constraints of biological and physical laws. The core of our humanity is our reflexiveness, our ability and need to take ourselves as objects of our inquiry. Humanists believe that we can bestow a meaning upon our lives through our work, through our active conduct, through our whole way of life, and through the attitude we adopt towards our friends, our fellow men, and towards the world. This life is not merely an episode in our existence. We should not think like this. This life is our entire existence. We will never develop further as persons than we will develop in this life. There is no future time for completion. The development of the whole is here. It is the entire existence, and it is here that we can develop. Man is facing tragic diversity. On the one hand, there are people leading a life of happiness, but there are many on the other hand who are facing disease, famine, and so on. The human condition is one of vulnerability. Our fate may be terrible, and there may be no consolation. To recognize fragility is to accept that we are vulnerable to circumstances. Just as there are no guarantees provided by a divine plan that we all be well in the end, so also there are no guarantees in human nature that we will, through our own resources, be able to create a perfect world. Just as we have to acknowledge that terrible things can happen to us, so also we have to acknowledge that we could do terrible things. Humanism acknowledges the terrible record of man's inhumanity to man. There are grounds for sober realism, but not despair. The ideal to which we can aspire is not a remote non-human ideal. It is one which is formed from our own experience. It is the experience of what human beings are capable of at their best. What human beings are capable of at their best. For humanists, acknowledgement of our universal tragedy provides a functional basis for compassion. Humanism focuses on good life and the whole life. Two important words: good life and the whole person. Human life is richly diverse, creative, and advantageous. It enriches the whole of humanity. Human nature is not a machine to be built after a model. No, it is not a machine to be built after a model. It is a tree which requires to grow and develop according to the tendency of the inward forces which make it a living thing. In other words, we have inward forces. The inward forces make us a living thing, and we require to grow and develop. This personal development is an essential element of good life. Further, achieving one's full potential in skills, abilities, moral development, and psychological well-being is to become a whole person. Good life and a whole person. Finding ways to encourage this fullness of being is an important part of the humanist agenda. Fullness of being. Humanism emphasizes connectedness. The human person does not exist in isolation. It exists in community with others. Humanists have always placed a high value on the interpersonal relationship. Humanists believe that humans may have a genetic potential to develop morality. Genetic potential to develop morality. Our moral sense must be nurtured during childhood, family, school, and community. And according to humanists, we must judge the morality of actions based on their effect on person's welfare and freedom. It is wrong to say that humanism is wholly driven by morality. Moral decisions are highly contextual and distinctive and not amenable to rigid frameworks. Not amenable to rigid frameworks. E.M. Foster rightly says, I don't believe in belief. Being moral is not something that needs too many theories. It is something that we learn and experience through doing of it, driven by our own feelings and sympathies. George Eliot, an important novelist, nicely puts it. Love does not say, I ought to love. It loves. Pity does not say, it is right to be pitiful. It pities. Justice does not say, I am bound to be just. It feels justly. Hence, it is something that we learn and experience through doing of it, driven by our own feelings and sympathies. A very important consequence of a humanist approach is the notion of our moral responsibility for large numbers of people. We are not aware of social morality. We are now aware of social morality, the principles that govern our common life. Humanist thinking provides a moral basis for our activity. In a simple account of humanism, there is no place for religion. Simple account. In the universe described by science, gods are unnecessary hypotheses. Gods and religions are human inventions. Now, a question arises. Is humanism compatible with religion? There are four dimensions of all religions in real life to answer this question. Let us take an example of saying that someone is Jewish. If someone is a Jew, in this case, we mean either of the four things. There are four dimensions. Number one, he believes in the God of Moses. Number two, he attends a synagogue and participates in religious practices. Number three, he has a religious identity as he is born in a Jewish family. Number four, he has a cultural identity associated with Judaism. These four dimensions, belief, practice, religion, religious identity, and cultural identity. These dimensions are applicable not to Judaism but to all religions. But we cannot deny that such people can be humanist too. They can also share some humanist attitudes. Humanism denotes the development of human virtue to the fullest extent. These virtues were understanding, benevolence, compassion, mercy, prudence, fortitude, love for honor, and so on. Renaissance humanism rejected the belief that man is merely a passive tool in the hands of providence. That man is a tool in the hands of providence was rejected. Man is in the middle position in the great chain of being. Human nature is between beastly nature and divine nature. In between the two, he is the maker and shaper of his own destiny. He can rise to the level of the divine and he can also go down to the level of the beasts. And in Shakespeare's Hamlet, one of the greatest tragedies ever written, we find a nice presentation of the dignity and beauty of human life. Shakespeare says, "What a piece of work is man! How noble is reason! How noble in reason! How infinite in faculty! In form and moving! How expression admirable! How like an angel! In apprehension, how like a god! The beauty of the world, the paragon of animals, but what is this quintessence of dust? Man on the one hand noble, infinite in faculty, admirable, just like an angel, but he can also be the quintessence of dust. So this is a nice presentation of the dignity and beauty of human life presented by Shakespeare, and we find a very good picture of humanism in this part of the drama. According to E.M. Foster, there are four characteristics of humanism. They are curiosity, a free mind, belief in good taste, and a belief in human race. Humanism is a set of ethics. Humanism itself is ethics. It is a set of ethics or ideas about how people should live and act. Humanists prefer critical thinking and evidence over acceptance of dogma and superstition. Humanists believe that every human should be treated with respect. Every human should be allowed to have dignity. If all people act with respect for others, people will live in peace and trust. People should be able to decide how they want to live their lives and they should use reasoning to make decisions. They should have choices that will help make life better. Thus, humanism has its own ethics. Therefore, in 1965, ethical humanism was used. Humanism, again ethical humanism was used. It was in 1965. The Humanist International referred to 10 tenets of ethical humanism. 1. It is acceptance of responsibility for human life. 2. It represents a way of life relying on human capacities, natural and social resources. 3. Humanist morality starts with an acknowledgement of human interdependence and the need for mutual respect. 4. It calls for a significant existence made worthwhile through human commitment. 5. Society should provide conditions for the fullest development of each man. 6. Human development needs continuous improvement of the conditions of free inquiry. 7. Scientific knowledge is the most reliable means of welfare. 8. Human progress is progress in freedom of choice. 9. Justice does not exclude force, but the sole desirable use of force is to suppress the resort to force. And the last one, ethical humanism affirms the unity of man and the common responsibility of all men for all. Today, we are using a new term, that is new humanism. Traditionally, humanism had focused on man's relations to man. And this viewpoint was instrumental in advancing the cause of social justice. In the current era of environmental crisis, New Humanism considers man's relationship with other living beings and the entire ecosystem. This New Humanism, this concept, was first formulated by P.R. Sarkar in 1982. New Humanism holds that the core human value is love for all humanity. When this value is protected, humans engage themselves in conflict with their own species and with other species. A key feature of new humanist approach is to understand the regions where the innate love of humanity is checked. One region is geosentiments. Geosentiments, otherwise we can say geographic sentiments. It is an attachment that people feel for their particular geographic location. For example, a farmer has intense feeling for each inch of land he owns. This is geographic sentiment, geosentiment. In the same way, there is geopatriotism, that my country is the best country, other countries are inferior to my country. This is geopatriotism. Like that, there is geo-religion. My religion is the best religion, other religions are inferior to my religion. So, this geopatriotism, geo-religion are utilized by the political leaders today. And using these sentiments, the political leaders are mobilizing the people to fight bloody wars. Apart from this geopatriotism, geo-religion, there is social sentiment also. Social sentiments are often the cause of intra-human conflict. What does it mean? It means when people identify themselves with social group, the social group may be racial, may be religious, may be linguistic, may be ethnic, a particular kind of social outlook is needed to surmount the obstacles of these social sentiments. So, what is this particular kind of social outlook which is needed? This is the principle of social equality. When people run after their goal, but also make a result to eliminate social inequalities that define the humanity. When a human being identifies himself with a particular social group, his radius of thought is confined to the limits of that group. When people make effort to expand their radius of thought to include not a single social group, but the entire universe, the mental process culminates with love for all beings. New humanists call it psycho-spiritual approach. This is called psycho-spiritual approach by the humanists. Traditional humanism has a shortcoming. What is that shortcoming? While giving importance to human rights, it does not recognize the rights of plants, the rights of animals. This is the shortcoming of traditional humanism. But new humanism believes that cruelties which animals have suffered down the ages or human destruction of the flora and fauna is an evidence that the arena of human concern needs to be expanded. Therefore, in recent years, we find animal rights movement, social justice organizations with environmental causes. Further, there are two types of value in all plants and animals: utility value and existential value. Humans take care of plants and animals. Why? Because of their utility value. For example, if a cow gives milk, it has utility value, and we feed it, keep it alive and well. If the same cow no longer gives milk, its utility value diminishes, and the human beings may no longer keep it alive. But new humanists say that regardless of the utility value of a plant or animal, it wants to maintain its own existence. And humans should recognize this existential value too. This recognition adds an ecological dimension to humanism. New humanists believe that a psycho-spiritual approach and widening of humanism with an ecological component can lead to the emergence of a global society. Mata Bhumi Putro Aham Prathibhya. The entire world is our mother, and I am the son of this earth. A global society we look forward to. This new humanism reminds us of the peace mantra of Yajurveda, in which man invokes peace not only for mankind but also for the entire universe, including the animals of plants. Om Jau Shanti, Antariksham Shanti, Prithvi Shanti, Apah Shanti, Ausadah Shanti, Vanaspataya Shanti, Vishwadevah Shanti, Brahma Shanti, Sarvam Shanti, Shanti Reva Shanti, Sama Shanti Redhi. May peace rule in the sky. May peace rule in the ethereal space, in the earth, in water, plants, gods of the world, in all. Sarvam Shanti. This is new humanism. And with this new humanism, we can dream of a very peaceful world, a global society. With this, I would like to conclude my speech. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your thought-provoking lecture. Your transition from humanism to no humanism. We have with us Professor Pramod Kumar Das. He will present before us a brief synopsis of what you have said. So over to Professor Das for a brief synopsis of what sir has said.
Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you. Namaskar, sir. Chayakun, sir. Namaskar. Namaskar, sir.
Namaskar, namaskar, namaskar.
Namaskar, sir. Um, Now, actually, it does not need any synopsis because the talk was so precise, so lucid, and so pinpointed. So, we do not need to synopsize this talk. So, now we may start our interactive session because this was very pointed. There is nothing to synopsize.
Okay.
Okay. If okay, in very few words, I shall submit that Sir spoke of different types of humanism, like Renaissance humanism, Christian humanism, religious humanism, also ethical humanism, and neo-humanism. And in all types of humanism, there are some common elements that we find in humanism, that it is anti-religious and anti-dogmatic attitude. So the main concern of humanism is that man should rule by his own regime, by his own experience, and by his own sentiments, and by his own responsibility. Man is the measure of everything. This was the common belief, and man should be free from all dogmatic beliefs, preoccupied thoughts, and fond beliefs, and man should be very much concerned about the human welfare, social justice, and the betterment of the whole creation also. So this is the main tenet of humanism, and man should be ruled by his own region and autonomy. And in neo-humanism, sir said that man is not only the concern for man, man should be concerned for the whole nature. Man is the guardian of the whole creation after God. So man should take care of plants and the whole environment, and that is new humanism. So, one thing sir wanted to say, perhaps I understood that is it correct to say that neo-humanism is anti-theistic? Yeah, and a theist cannot, can we say that a theist is not a humanist? This is a question. This is a question. So, so we cannot say, we cannot conclude that an atheist is a strong believer of humanism, or he follows the ethics of humanism. And a person can be theist and can also follow the ethics of humanism. Because when we say, because when we say we are obliged to the whole creation and we are taking care of the whole creation, this is also a religious attitude in very broad sense.
Yeah.
This is, that is also a religious attitude. When I am obliged to trees, I am obliged to plants, I am obliged to the whole creation, I am obliged to sun, I am obliged to water, I am obliged to air, I am obliged to earth. That is, that obligation is my religious attitude. So, why should we say that a theist means that who believes in a deity or God? No, that is the real, that is not the real meaning of theism. As we say neo-humanism, we can say neo-theism. Neo-theism means that our attitude of obligation towards the whole creation, because man is not the whole creation, man is a part of creation, so man should be obliged to the whole creation. That is the main belief for new humanism. Man is not only a man, man can become divine, and at the same time man can become, man can come down to the level of a beast. So that, so double possibilities are there. So that is, there comes the freedom, that man is free to excel his existence to the divine, or he can come down to the existence of an animal. So animality, humanity, and divinity, these are three possibilities of a human beings only. By his education, yes, yes, it is true. Some people are some people suffer from dogmatism. They have blind beliefs. And when humanism says that man should be free from that, but that should not again go to, that should not go towards materialism. In the name of humanism, one should not be a materialist too. That is also, that shall be a wrong practice. Okay, okay. So it was a very good presentation within a very short time. Now, I think it will carry forward a very good discussion too.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Das. Sir, if you want to comment on this, you are welcome, sir. If you want to comment on the observations made by Dr. Das. Your response, if any response on this issue. Over to Shayakant sir.
Yes, I agree. I agree with Mr. Das. Actually, this is all a play of words, that Christian humanism, secular humanism, religious humanism, these are all play of words. A man may be a Christian, a man may be a Jew, a man may be a Muslim, but he can share he can share the principles of humanism. So a religious person can be a humanist, no problem. And how we use the word religion also, that is important. One can say that humanism is my religion. If I use the word humanism is my religion, no problem. So a particular man of a particular religion can be a humanist, because all religions share some humanistic principles. Almost all religions share the same principles of humanity. Thank you.
Thank you for your nice response, sir. We have certain questions in the chat box, but again, those questions are of, say, the things that you have already said. Humanism has various names, and what is common to all that they are all humanistic in nature, but we have
Yes.
certain differentiations associated with them. We have a question by Dilip Das, sir. He wants to know what is civic humanism? How is it different from Christian humanism? Again, a game of words.
Civic humanism, just like I want to remind you, a new term has been coined nowadays, secular humanism. Secular humanism, what is secular humanism? Secular humanism means it rejects religious dogma, supernaturalism, superstitions as the basis of morality and decision making. So secular humanism is as good as humanism in general. Like that, civic humanism is like that. It is also a play of words. Civic humanism means particularly that it should be free from that religion, theism, in the traditional sense, etc.
Thank you for your response, sir. A similar question again from that I find in the chat box. It is by Dr. Ratnakar Gajendra, sir. He wants to know what is spiritual humanism. What is spiritual humanism?
Spiritual humanism, again, spirit, there, we should first understand the difference between spiritualism and religion. Very often we confuse these two terms, spiritualism and religion. Spiritual religion, it focuses on the spirit, the development of the spirit, what Pramod Babu said, spiritual humanism, oneness of all, the world of plants, the world of animals, the world of human beings, all are unified. They are all parts of the same whole. When we recognize this, that animals and plants and human beings all form a unity, that is spiritual. It has nothing to do with religious. Religious is something else, and spiritual is something else.
Sir, can we say it's a response? It's a posture coming out of this question. Is spiritually, is the humanism that we see in Tagore? We said spiritual humanism in the sense when he says man is God divinized and God is man humanized. So
Yeah,
is it?
yeah, yeah. Right, you are right, you are right. You are
Sir,
right, yes, sir. Yes.
so that is the idea behind spiritual humanism.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, okay,
Thank
sir.
you.
So one more question that we have in the chat box. It is by Dr. Aniruddha Panda, sir. He says, what is the uniqueness of neo-humanism? That is, how can we see this new humanism? In what way it is different from the humanism that we have?
I think I have made it clear in the last part of my talk.
Yes, you have said it, but briefly you just put it on so that it would be much more clear to the people here.
Okay, okay. This new, this new humanism, traditional humanism has a shortcoming. The shortcoming was that traditionally what we meant by humanism, it gave importance to human rights. It does not recognize the rights of plants and animals. And new humanists believe that the cruelties which animals have suffered down the ages, humans' destruction of flora and fauna, it is an evidence that the arena of human concern needs to be extended. And when we think of the plants and the animals, no different from human beings, we have to bring them together. But the new humanist approach, this new humanism, uh, includes the world of plants and the worlds of animals also, love not only for human beings but love for the world of plants and animals. It includes all the world.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir,
This
for
was
your
this was this the world of plants and animals was not included in the traditional in traditional humanism.
Yes, yes. In traditional humanism, man was the center, but now
Wow.
but in humanism, what we see is man is replaced by the entire nature. That includes
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
entire flora, fauna, everything. Everything is
Wow.
connected and nothing is apart. So man is also there along with it. All the creation that becomes a part
Yeah,
of it.
yeah,
So everybody is connected in new humanism. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
very nice response from you, sir. I
Neo
don't see
neo 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 humanism is more holistic.
it's holistic.
Holistic. Yes, it
It's
is
Ah,
holistic.
holistic.
It's a holistic.
man is not the only concern of a man. If we say that man is a rational animal, if man is really rational, he should take care of the whole creation. Because man is dependent, man is nature dependent. On which we depend, we should take care of it. This is common sense. Thank you.
Yeah. So one more poster that I see from what has been discussed. It's by Renubala Sundarai. She wants to know whether non-living beings, which also constitute a part of nature, whether they come under the purview of neo-humanism, the non-living entities out there in the world, whether they also carry the value, the intrinsic value, the connectedness that we have in nature, whether non-living entities in the world, non-living entities in nature, they also fall within the purview of new humanism. That is the question from.
Yes, yes.
Well, you have answered this. Well, you have answered this.
That was just said in the previous
That is the
question.
thing that has been already been said. Okay, okay. That is it. Yes. There is no question in the chat box that I see. If anybody wants to put any question, they are free to unmute themselves and speak out their issue, say any suggestion or problem whatsoever. Anybody, if they have any suggestion to make or any clarification to make or any question to raise, they are free. They are free to unmute themselves and put forth the question. Anybody. So I don't see any more question in the chat box. I don't think.
I have a
Uh, uh,
question.
Carry on, sir. Carry on.
Question means I want to learn from sir. That the atheists always claim that they are rationalists. Atheist and rationalist are synonyms. That means a theist is not a rationalist. This is my question to Dr. Sarangi. The atheists claim that they are rationalists. Sir, please unmute yourself. Sir, unmute.
Okay, okay. Oh, sir, I couldn't listen.
Oh, you cannot. Okay. My question was atheists very often always claim that they are rationalists. Atheists claim that they are rationalists.
Okay.
That means theists are not rational. And atheism and rationalism are synonyms. How,
Theism and rationalism?
atheism and rationalism are
No, no, no,
are
no, no.
synonyms. So
No.
why do they claim? In what sense they claim?
Yes. I have a question to the atheists. If the atheists say that they are rationalists, but when they stick to their views, they become dogmatic. And if they become dogmatic, they stick to their views, they reject all other views. Are not they irrational?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean so. I mean so.
They are also, the rationality does not mean sticking to your own view and you will not listen to others.
They
But
jump. They jump from one dogmatism
to
to
another form
another
of dogmatism.
another form of dogmatism.
Yeah, that is another form of dogmatism.
So we should be very much impartial, and we
Yeah,
should
yeah.
be very much holistic. We should accept everything. because
Yeah.
we should accept the totality,
Yeah.
and we are not confined to anybody's belief. If
Yeah.
being a very perfect human being, you believe in Shiva, you believe in Hanuman, or you believe in Allah, how does it affect anybody? I don't understand. Suppose you are a very much good moral person, you have a very good personality, you are doing, you are concerned for the whole creation, you are giving charity, you are a very good personality, you are a very good man. As a man, you are very good. But whom you believe and what you do not believe, how does it affect? That is the question.
Yeah. So they have another form of dogmatism.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you, sir, for the observations made and also for the response by Dr. Sarangi. If anybody wants to put any question or set some sort of suggestion, they're welcome.
Pragya is with us.
Pragya madam is there, huh? Would you like,
Uh,
Pragya madam, would you like to put any question or seek any sort of suggestion?
Pragya should
Pragya madam is
Pragya should ask.
well, she's not she's there. Okay, okay, okay,
Okay,
okay,
then now conclude
okay.
with vote of thanks.
Okay, okay, okay. So, okay, we had really an excellent lecture by Dr. Chakant Sadangi sir on ethics of humanism. Not only that, sir has traced the history of humanism, but also took us from man's original nature to a new track where we find ourselves in nature, interconnected with every other entity, both living and non-living, and ascribing a sort of intrinsic value, not just to human beings, but also to all creatures out there in this creation, including the non-living entities out there in this world. So everything out there in the world has an intrinsic value, and everything in this world are interconnected by a web of connections. And any disturbance, the ecologists say that we are so interconnected in this nature that any disturbance to any species in this world brings about a disaster to the entire creation. Okay, if we are disturbing any member in the ecosystem, we are disturbing the entire ecosystem, and that would ultimately result in the extinction of man. Somebody was saying, I was listening to your lecture somewhere. I say, wherein maybe it is Sadhguru's video that I was watching. Let's say somebody asked, we have man has disturbed this universe a lot, and somebody said, what would be the nature of this world, if man is eliminated? Then Sadhguru replied that if man is eliminated, man is the center of all the problems. If man is eliminated, then this earth will flourish. So you see the answer. If man is eliminated, this world will flourish. So at the center of all disturbance, excuse me, at the center of all the problems in existence that we have, man is the main being responsible for all sorts of disturbances, maybe in nature, maybe in human relationship, maybe his relationship with other creatures. So if it is man, well, humanism aims at man, and man is centric in its philosophy, but man has to rise above his own desires, his own interests, to the service of other mankind, and also bring himself close to the other creatures out there in the world, and also the non-living entities out there in this world. If this is done, maybe we can have a better world, a more safer world. I should use a sustainable world that we can live for the future. Thank you very much, sir, for your very nice lecture, and also the responses, the way you responded to the questions were really interesting. was the great lecture. I see something. Somebody wants to say.
Sir, hello.
Uh-huh.
Sir,
Uh-huh.
I shall speak only one sentence,
Carry on, sir.
and
Carry on. You're right.
I congratulate your synopsis and your concluding remark. Very nice, very nicely you did that. One sentence.
Okay.
Without nature, man will perish. Without man, nature will flourish.
That is a very nice. Very
Thank
nice.
you,
Very
thank you, thank
nice.
you.
Very nice, very nice, very nice. So very nice and with a nice remark. So the entire webinar, I think, is a successful one. The sort of questions and the resultant that we had from this lecture is that man is vital, but man is not all. It,
And this is the first webinar in our entire webinar series. We have completed more than 120 webinars, which ended within 1 hour.
uh-huh,
With all perfections,
uh-huh, without perfection.
with talk, its synopsis, its concluding remarks, and interactive session.
Okay,
This is
okay,
a
okay.
very good piece of, very good example of a very precise webinar. Thank you, thank you.
Okay, so at the last, I see one thing from Renugala Sundarraj. It says, "Will man should rise above all sorts of geo-sentiment and social sentiment." Yes, yes. No restriction. He has to elevate. He has to rise above what he has within himself. He has to come out to extend all sort of possibilities that he has within to all creatures and entities out there in this world. Thank you, sir, for your very nice lecture. It was truly a very nice lecture. I really congratulate Dr. Chakanta Sadangi sir for his nice lecture, being from the Department of English, but still the sense of philosophical content that he has within him, I really appreciate. And in the future days, I wish we will be calling Dr. Sadangi for more lectures, bringing in the elements of, say, humanism or romanticism or any other traits that we see in English literature to the fold of philosophy, so that we can also be enriched with things that are taught in English literature. Thank you very much, sir, for your nice presentation. Thank you,
welcome.
Dr. Rao,
sir.
Sir has written more than 100 articles on philosophical topics.
Is it so? Is it so?
So,
Very,
so
very nice. Very nice.
it
Very
is,
nice.
yes,
So we are very happy. We are fortunate that we have him. And we want more of him, from more of things from him, on more of lectures from him on more issues, philosophical ones. I say
so we can give any topic, and
very nice, very nice,
he is comfortable in to deliver on that topic.
very nice, very.
Thank you. We the entire philosophy family, the whole philosophy family is grateful to you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome, welcome.
We are very much thankful to you, sir. We see you for more lectures from you. We
Thank
are,
you.
sir, very nice lecture today, and I think that all the members of philosophy family might be very much satisfied with your lecture, and it's a and we all have a good take from your lecture. Thank you very much, sir. I thank everybody, including
ସାର୍
the
ନମସ୍କାର ସାର୍
somebody
ସାର୍
is speaking.
ନମସ୍କାର
Somebody is speaking.
ସାର୍ ନମସ୍କାର ରେଣୁଳା ସୁନ୍ଦର
Um,
କହୁଛି ସାର୍
madam, carry on, carry on.
ସାର୍ ନମସ୍କାର ଛାୟାକାନ୍ତ ସାର୍
ହଁ କହୁଛି।
ସାର୍ ସାର୍ ଆପଣ ପ୍ରଭାସ ରଞ୍ଜନ ସରକାରଙ୍କୁ ଜାଣିଛନ୍ତି ତ ମୁଁ ସେଥିପାଇଁ ଟିକେ ଜାଣିବାକୁ ଚାହିଁଲି ସାର୍
ପ୍ରଭାତ ରଞ୍ଜନ ସରକାରଙ୍କ ଆନନ୍ଦ ଏଟା ମାର୍ଗର ଲୋକ ନା।
ଫାଉଣ୍ଡର ଅଫ୍ ଆନନ୍ଦ ମାର୍ଗ ସାର୍ ଆନନ୍ଦ ମାର୍ଗୀ
ହଁ ହଁ
ସେଥିପାଇଁ ସାର୍
ତାଙ୍କର ବହି କିଛି ପଢିଛି, ମୁଁ ରଖିଛି ମଧ୍ୟ କିଛି ବହି,
ମୁଁ
ଏବଂ
ସାର୍
ସେ
ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ
ପ୍ରଥମ
ଜାଣିବାକୁ
ଲୋକ
ଚାହିଁଲି
ଏଇ ଯୋଉ ନିଓ
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ହ୍ୟୁମାନିଜିମ ର କଥା ସେ ପ୍ରଥମେ ହିଁ କହିଥିଲେ।
ଆଜ୍ଞା ସାର୍ ଆଜ୍ଞା
ନିଓ ହ୍ୟୁମାନିଜିମ କଥା ତାଙ୍କଠୁ ଆରମ୍ଭ ହେଲା।
ହଁ ହଁ ସାର୍ ସେଇଥିପାଇଁ ସାର୍ ମୁଁ ଆପଣଙ୍କୁ ଟିକେ ଜାଣିବା ପାଇଁ ଚାହିଁଲି
ଆଚ୍ଛା ଆଚ୍ଛା,
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ନା ମୁଁ କିଛି ବହି
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ପଢିଛି ତାଙ୍କର, ରଖିଛି ମଧ୍ୟ କିଛି ବହି।
ଆଜ୍ଞା ସାର୍ ଥ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ୟୁ ସାର୍ ବହୁତ କମ ସମୟ ଭିତରେ ଭଲସେ କହିଲେ ସାର୍, ବହୁତ ବଢିଆ ଲାଗିଲା ସାର୍। ମୋର ସାର୍
ଥ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ୟୁ।
କଲେଜରେ ଆସିବା ଟିକେ ଡେରି ହେଇଗଲା ତ, ଆମର ଗୋଟେ ଫେୟାରୱେଲ ମିଟିଂ ଥିଲା, ମୁଁ ଟିକେ ଲେଟରେ ଜଏନ କଲି ଆଉ।
ଆପଣ କେଉଁ କଲେଜରେ ଅଛନ୍ତି?
ମୁଁ ସାର୍ କେକେ ଓମେନ୍ସ କଲେଜରେ ଅଛି ସାର୍, ବାଲେଶ୍ୱର।
ଆରେ ମୋ ସେଥିରେ ମୋ ଷ୍ଟୁଡେଣ୍ଟ ଥିଲା ବିଜୟ କୁମାର, ସେ ମୋ ଅଣ୍ଡରରେ ପିଏଚଡି କରିଛି।
ଆଜ୍ଞା ସାର୍, ସିଏ ଏବେ ସାର୍ ନୂଆପଟ ସାର୍
ହଁ
ଇଏ
ମୋ ପାଖରେ
ଯୋଉ
ଅଛି, ସେ ମୋ ପାଖରେ ଅଛି, ଏଇଠି ମୁଁ 50 କିଲୋମିଟର ଦୂରରେ, ସେ ଏଠିକି ମଝିରେ ମଝିରେ ଆସେ।
ଆଜ୍ଞା ସାର୍ ବିଜୟ ସାର୍ ତ ମତେ ଭଲ ଭାବେ ଜାଣିଛନ୍ତି।
हाँ मु तार को गाइड थिली ना तार पीएचडी रे एटी
ଆଜ୍ଞା
सेशन
ସାର୍
को
ଆଜ୍ଞା
गाइड
ଆଜ୍ଞା
मु
ହଁ
तार
ହଁ
डायरेक्ट टीचर मध्य आई एम इज डायरेक्ट टीचर
ଆଜ୍ଞା ସାର୍
4
ହଉ
वर्ष
ହଉ
पढ़ी ताको दिनकृष्ण कॉलेज जलेश्वर रे
ଆଜ୍ଞା ହଁ
Okay,
ହଉ
okay, okay. Thank you,
ସାର୍
madam.
ଆଉ ଥରେ ଆଶା କରୁଛି ଆପଣଙ୍କ ଟକ୍ ସାର୍ ଆଉ ଥରେ କେମିତି ଆସୁ ଆମର
हाउ हाउ
ଅପରଚୁନିଟି ସାର୍ ମିସ୍ କଲେ ଅଧା ଶୁଣିଲି ଆଉ
अच्छा अच्छा
Okay, okay. Thank you, madam.
ଥ୍ୟାଙ୍କ
Okay,
ୟୁ ସାର୍ ଭେରି ମଚ୍ ଥ୍ୟାଙ୍କ ୟୁ ଭେରି ମଚ୍
Madam, it is recorded. You can view it on YouTube.
okay. Anyway, it's a very good news that new humanism has an Indian origin. It's another great news for all of us. So, with these words, I once again thank Dr. Chayakanta Sadangi sir and also all the members, including the admin of Philosophy Family, for this wonderful evening with this webinar. So, thank you, everyone. Wishing to have good lectures in future from the platform of Philosophy Family. Thank you, everybody. Now the meeting is closed.